I mean, we know, we've known here in the newsroom that you, of all people, you are a little bit bonkers. But this time, I think you've really lost the plot. What are you doing now?
Bradan, you won't actually believe where we are right now. We're outside the crocodile enclosure here at Croc City, just north of Johannesburg. We had a look at the crocs a little bit earlier, but now in a South African television exclusive, Bradan, we are about to take you inside the actual enclosure. So there are about 18 crocodiles inside this enclosure. Many of them are female, Bradan. Many of them are actually nesting on their eggs. And now we've joined the Croc City team. They're going to take us inside. My cameraman Mohamotsi is also going to take us inside to get a sense of how these crocs actually live, Bradan, and what it actually means to look after their eggs. So join me, Bradan. This is an exclusive. As I said, we're going to go inside the croc enclosure. If you are a little bit scared of crocs, you might want to get a cup of coffee and come back later. But if you like reptiles, then stay with me. This is going to be exciting. Anton is going to let us inside the enclosure, and then we are going to follow Brendan as he takes us closer and closer to these crocodiles. So just follow me. As I mentioned, there are about 20 crocodiles inside the enclosure. It is rather cold, so many of them are chilling in more ways than one. Thankfully, they're not too upset with us for coming into the enclosure. Brendan has gotten a box ready so that he can actually harvest some of these eggs. These eggs, Bradan, are going to go into an incubator so that they can actually hatch in a few days' time. Meanwhile, the mothers, who you can see all around us, some of them are actually in the water at the moment, are trying to keep these eggs warm. But what Croc City is doing is it's going to incubate some of the eggs to ensure that they actually survive. So let's head closer. You would have seen some of the crocs around me a little bit earlier, but let's head closer to actually where some of them were nesting and laying their eggs. So here we are. These are actual crocodile eggs which we're looking at right now. Just about 20 minutes ago, a croc was actually on top of these eggs, Bradan, and I'm going to bring Brendan in right now. Brendan, just tell me something that a lot of people will be wondering is how do you actually ensure your own safety when collecting these eggs? I mean, where is the mother at the moment?
The female is actually right in the water there, and she's watching everything we do here. And we have to harvest the eggs because there are a lot of factors that can influence whether the eggs will hatch. Temperature is critical because the genders are determined by temperature. So we have to harvest these eggs and get them into an incubator where we can keep the temperature perfectly stable, because otherwise some of the eggs won't develop at all and the others would die. So keeping them at the correct temperature is critical if we want them to survive.
All right, so Bradan, we are now starting to collect these eggs, and it's very important that you pick them up at the right angle. As Brendan will tell us, if you pick them up at the incorrect angle, you actually risk the life of the baby croc. So he's going to take us through that. This is live. It's happening as we speak, collecting these baby croc eggs, and in a year or two, they're going to be massive critters, and they'll probably be swimming in that pool. So here we go, Brendan. Take us through collecting these eggs.
Okay, the average female would lay anywhere between 30 and 50 eggs, and she'll be very specific about the place that she lays. So she'll wait for the sun to go down, dig a hole with her back legs as deep as she can reach, lay her eggs and cover it up before the sun comes back up again. And then for the next 3 months, she will guard this nest incredibly well. So we've got her in the water there, and we've got the other guys backing us up and keeping an eye on the other mothers. So we're going to harvest these eggs now and get them into the incubator as quickly as possible.
All right, we're going to watch you as you do it. Go ahead, Brendan, and I'll talk Bradan through it. Go ahead and pick them up, and we'll just focus on what you're doing. As you can see, Bradan, relatively big, much bigger than your average egg you might have for breakfast, and that's not surprising because some of the crocs around us are longer than 2 meters. Brendan, really focusing on the angle. That's really, really important.
This is critical, because if the egg is disturbed, tilted or twisted, then the embryo could actually die inside. So the exact position that it was lying at and the exact angle I have to keep. So I have to take this egg now, and then I have to put it exactly down at the angle that I found it in. So I'm going to let it rest in here, and then I'm going to go after the next one. And this is why when you're harvesting crocodile eggs, this is not a 5-minute job. This is actually something that takes a lot of gentleness, and you've got to really focus on what you're doing, which is why we need these other guys here to help us so that we can focus on what we're doing without having to worry about crocodiles coming up on us.
All right, keep going. We're going to focus on these eggs, Brendan. As you can see, around about 5 or 6 which have been laid in this particular nest. I did have a look at the mother a little bit earlier. She was really a massive creature, Brendan, probably longer than 2 meters, as I said, and really being very careful to look after her young. We now understand that she is in the pool just behind us, Brendan. So that's quite comforting, and we've got a few people who are protecting us and making sure that we don't get eaten. But Brendan is now uncovering those eggs, Brendan, very, very carefully, just to ensure that the crocs aren't put in any sort of danger. As you can see, a lot of them are embedded in the soil, the crocodiles being sure to keep them quite safe under the ground, probably about 10-15 centimeters under the ground. Nature really is incredible when you get up close and personal with it. And Brendan very carefully dislodging that egg. Remember, keeping it at the right angle. So that's, I think, 2 or 3 eggs down. We've still got about 4 or 5 to go, Brendan. We've been in this enclosure for a few minutes. Thankfully, the crocs haven't gotten too upset. They seem to be getting used to us. So Brendan is going to keep doing this throughout the morning, getting those eggs back into the incubator. As I said, the importance of that, ensuring that the crocs actually survive, that they're nice and safe. Brendan, it's all about 12 days of crazy, pushing ourselves out of our comfort zones, and that's what we're doing right here. Brendan?
Hey, Michael, I'm seeing those 3 or 2 crocodiles, big ones behind you there. You better watch out. Thank you very much, Michael Marillier. Only him and his craziness for those 12 days of crazy. Thank you.